Is Seraphina standalone? Damn it, it's not a standalone.
Hey everyone, my name is Yasmina and welcome back to my channel. I make videos all about books, book recommendations, writing, and publishing your book, so if that sounds like something interesting to you, please consider clicking that subscribe button. Today's video is all about standalone fantasy novels and what are my favorite standalone fantasy novels. This is something that is very rare in the fantasy genre because of course most of the time they are series. And I love series, there's nothing wrong about them. In fact, it's the opposite because if you really like something, why not have more of it, right? However, every now and again, it's nice to have a story in one book and read it, love it, and then that's the end of it. And you don't have to go through 10 more books to get to the end of the overall story. And so in this video, I want to recommend to you guys the best standalone fantasy books that I've personally read. And then I'm going to show you some that I have on my TBR that I really want to get to, that I know are standalones. So yes, without further ado, let's get into the standalone fantasy novels. First up, we have Uprooted by Naomi Novik. This is a fantasy fairy tale retelling and it is inspired by Ukrainian folklore, which is also really good. The main character is called Agnieszka, and the dragon is the secondary character. And the story goes that every 10 years, the dragon chooses a young female from the village that it's trying to protect to be his companion. And our main character, Agnieszka, gets to be that companion. But she's not really a character that goes along with what other people tell her to do. I'll just say that. I really enjoyed this one, and of course it is standalone. It is a complete story from start to end, and I thought the writing was beautiful. I really like Naomi Novik's writing in this one. If you've watched my review of A Deadly Education, you will know that I didn't particularly enjoy that book. That was also written by Naomi Novik, and I had high hopes for that one because it's the same author and the writing in this one is so beautiful. But anyway, I know she can write really well, and I really also want to read her other standalone fantasy fairy tale, which is called Spinning Silver. I haven't read that yet, but that's definitely also on my TBR. Next up, we have one of my favorite books of all time, and it is also a standalone, of course, since it is in this video, and that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is such a beautiful book. It's also physically a beautiful book, but the story is so beautiful as well. I don't even know how to describe this book, but the main premise is that the Night Circus is this mysterious fantasy circus that shows up during the night in the middle of nowhere, and it also disappears mysteriously and then pops up in a different part of the world or time. Yes, there's a lot with this book. It's beautiful. Honestly, it's so great. I really need to reread this one because, again, it was so beautifully written. I remember there was a lot of really great lines in this, and I just want to experience the story again. I wish I could experience it for the first time, but anyway. Yes. The next two books are by one of my favorite fantasy authors, and that is Brandon Sanderson. The first one I have is The Emperor's Soul. This is actually a novella, so it is very short, but of course it is standalone, so you can read it pretty much in one sitting, to be honest, and be done with it. And this is an awesome fantasy story. I think it's really difficult to write good fantasy in such a short page count, because the whole thing with fantasy is the world building and multiple characters and, you know, political intrigue and all of that cool magic systems. And that kind of thing requires a lot of time and space to properly develop. Somehow, this man, he manages to do all of that in a novella. And if you want to get a start into fantasy or into Brandon Sanderson, if you want a taste for Brandon Sanderson, pick this up. You can read it in one sitting. It is really good. And the second Sanderson novel is standalone for now, and I'll explain in a little bit, but this is The Rhythmatist. This was a standalone for a very long time. However, he has mentioned that he is planning on continuing the series at some point. For the last 8 years, this has been a standalone, and I think it's going to remain a standalone for quite some time. He writes crazy amount of books, but I think it's going to be some time until he gets to write some more in this series. So I would recommend reading it until then, while it is still a standalone. The thing is, the story finishes at the end. He just wants to write more books in this world and with this magic system, which is a really cool magic system, as it should be since it is Sanderson. So this story follows our main character who goes to a magical academy where he learns to use his powers, and in this world the magic system is really cool. You basically draw characters or animals on the ground in chalk, and then those drawings come to life and possess different magical abilities. And of course the whole magical academy trope, which who doesn't like that? Totally recommend this. Next we have a Neil Gaiman book, and that is Neverwhere. So Neverwhere is a very strange fantasy novel. I read this also quite a long time ago, but I think it's due a reread because I really enjoyed it. It is a bit strange though. Basically, the main character, at the beginning of the book, the main character falls into an alternate version of London, which is called Neverwhere, and that's the sort of, magical side of the city, and a lot of crazy things and crazy characters come up in this story. I have some vague memories of them, but I just remember it was a very, very strange book, but really enjoyable and well done at the same time. And I'm also reminded I should probably read more Neil Gaiman because I really like his strange writing style. The next standalone fantasy novel I don't have physically with me anymore, but that is The Princess Bride by William Goldman. Now, this is another sort of fairy tale-esque fantasy novel, which I'm sure you've heard of because it's super popular, and if you haven't heard of the book, you might have seen the movie because the movie is also a pretty classic sort of fantasy comedy. And the book is just as funny, if not funnier, in my opinion. It's definitely more comedic. I think more similar to maybe the Discworld type of humor, and it's just really, really good and really funny. I should probably get another copy of this book and reread it as well. Making this video, I just realized how many books I really want to reread, but anyway, yes, The Princess Bride. Totally recommend this if you haven't read it yet. Alright, so those were all of the standalone fantasy books that I've personally read and loved. Like I said, there just generally aren't as many, but I want to show you some that I have on my TBR, that I have physically on my TBR that I really want to get to. So the first one I have here is also by Erin Morgenstern, the same author who wrote The Night Circus, and that is The Starless Sea. This edition came in a Illumicrate book subscription box and it didn't have a dust jacket, but I imagine the dust jacket is very pretty. I'll put a picture here. From what I know, it is a dark academia novel, and that's all I know about it, but it's fantasy, it's standalone, dark academia, Erin Morgenstern, who wrote one of my favorite books of all time, so I'm very excited to get to this one. The next standalone fantasy I really want to get to is called The Lie Tree by Frances Hardinge, maybe. I don't know much about this, but so many people have been recommending this a few years ago on BookTube, and it just piqued my interest. And the back says, when a Faith's father is found dead under mysterious circumstances, she is determined to untangle the truth from the lies. Searching through his belongings for clues, she discovers a strange tree. A tree that feeds off whispered lies and bears fruit that reveals hidden secrets. But as Faith's untruths spiral out of control, she discovers that where lies seduce, truths shatter. I don't know, this sounds intriguing. Let me know what you thought of it if you've read it down in the comments. And the other standalone fantasy novel that I really, really want to get to, I've been mentioning this book in so many videos and I still haven't gotten to it. But anyway, that is The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. Now, technically, this is part of a bigger series from what I know, but you can read it as a standalone, but then there are other companion novels, I think, that you can read if you wish. But yeah, this is Japanese-inspired fantasy, which I love, and it's been sitting on my shelf for such a long time. Always in the back of my head, I'm like, I need to read this, and then other books just catch my interest and get in the way. But anyway, I'm really excited to get to this one eventually. Alright, so that was it. Those were all the standalone fantasy novels that I've personally read and loved, and a few that I'm really, really excited to get to. Do let me know if you have any other standalone fantasy recommendations for me and for other viewers watching this. Leave those in the comment section below so that I can find more and other people can find more, because like I said, it's such a rare thing to find standalone fantasy novels these days. Series are great, but just sometimes it's just nice to have a story finish in one installment. It's also cheaper. Just saying. Speaking from someone who's writing fantasy series, maybe a bit hypocritical as well, but it's just nice. Every now and again, it's just nice. Alright guys, that was it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and otherwise I'll see you next time with a new video. Bye!